This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, hello there, Jeff Carter welcoming you to another sports catastrophe on this day. And on this day, January 17th, in the year 1999, it was the NFC title game between the Atlanta Falcons and the Minnesota Vikings. The number 1 seed Minnesota Vikings and the number 2 Atlanta Falcons. This was huge. It is what considered one of the greatest conference finals of all time. Now, the AFC title had the Denver Broncos easily handle the New York Jets in Mile High. So, anyway, the Minnesota Vikings before 1998, to put things in context, had a lot of disappointing losses. They actually went to 4 Super Bowls, being the first franchise to do that. Not even the Dolphins or the Niners or even the Steelers did that. The Vikings went to 4 Super Bowls before 1977. Well, 1977 was their 4th Super Bowl loss, but they lost each time. They lost Super Bowl 4 to the Kansas City Chiefs, the last time the AFL and NFL were separate. They lost Super Bowl 8 to the Dolphins with their running attack and holding the Vikings to 3 points, which is tied for the worst offensive output in a Super Bowl with the 2019 LA Rams. We also have a loss to the Steelers when Steel Curtain, and of course Super Bowl 11 to the Raiders, John Madden's Super Bowl. They've had a lot of disappointing losses. Drew Pearson with the Hail Mary that I did in December. The Vikings had a chance to actually tie the Redskins in the 87 NFC title game, which was hard pressed because the Vikings shocked the Niners in the divisional round. Anyway, the NFL Network ranked the Vikings as the second most snake-bit franchise of all time behind Cleveland. Well, I wouldn't disagree. Anyway, the Vikings were playoff contenders, but really didn't have success in the playoffs until Randy Moss came to them in the first round. Many teams didn't want to draft this guy because of his problems. However, Moss would make everyone pay for it, especially on Thanksgiving Day, crushing the Dallas Cowboys. 3 catches, 3 touchdowns. Simple as that. Anyway, Moss would get 17 touchdown catches and combined with Chris Carter for a good receiving corps. And also Randall Cunningham, who actually had a renaissance. He was known as the running quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, but injuries would cause him to pass more. And he actually helped the Vikings out with a then record 556 points during the regular season. They only lost once to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And all that. They were the number 1 seed. They were 15-1. The other 2 NFL teams to beat at 15 wins, the 84 Niners and the 85 Bears, would actually win the Super Bowl. So Minnesota had that going for them and all that. All the stars were aligned. Gary Anderson joined the Vikings in the offseason and actually had converted every field goal and extra point, which was weird. 164 points in the process. 35 field goals, 59 extra points. So he looked good and all that. The last time he missed a kick was December 1997 against the Broncos when he was a Niner. Atlanta also had a frustrating history. They had Dallas beat at home in the 1980 divisional round, but they lost to the Cowboys when Danny White, not Roger Staubach, but Danny White, led them to a comeback. They had a lot of frustration and all that. The Falcons never had been to the NFC title game, let alone the Super Bowl. And the 98 season was not expected to be that way, too. They only made playoffs twice in 15 years. That's how bad they were. But Dan Reeves, RIP, overhauled the roster to reverse the team's fortunes. And 38 of the 53 players on that 98 Falcons team was brought in by Reeves, including Chris Chandler, who somehow, despite being a journeyman, actually had a great season. Jamal Anderson was just huge. He had the Dirty Bird, over 1,800 yards, which led the NFC that year. And the defense looked good. They were 14-2 and were the number 2 seed. Normally, a 14-win team would be the number 1 seed, but not this time. Anyway, Reeves would actually have to go through quadruple bypass surgery and miss the final 2 regular season games. Thankfully, though, Reeves was back in time for the Falcons to beat the Niners in the divisional round to clinch a spot in the conference championship. The Vikings were 11-point favorites. Falcons won the coin toss and drove down the field to score on a touchdown pass from Chandler to Jamal Anderson. However, the Vikings would tie it up 7-7. Thanks to Cunningham's touchdown pass to Randy Moss. And then Gary Anderson kicked the field goal to make it 10-7. And then Randall Cunningham got a touchdown run to make it 17-7. Randy Moss had a touchdown catch slip through his hands, and then they had to kick the field goal. It was 20-7. By the end of the half, the Falcons did score a touchdown from Chris Chandler to Terrence Mathis, 20-14. Morgan Anderson kicked the field goal to make it 20-17, and then the Vikings made 27-17 on a Matthew Hatchett touchdown. But the Falcons got a touchdown pass to Tony Martin. With 6 minutes left, the Falcons missed a 4th and 10 to turn the ball over and down. The Vikings drove down to the field to the 22-yard line, and all Gary Anderson had to do was kick the 39-yard field goal through the uprights. 10-point lead with about 4 minutes left. Might be a good chance for the Vikings to win. But no, for some unknown reason, well, with 2 minutes left, basically it was not difficult. And the game was indoors at the Metrodome, so the weather couldn't happen. The ball was snapped with the left hash mark. Henderson kicked the ball and went wide left. It was like, what the hell just happened? He just missed a field goal for the first time in 2 years, and it was actually indoors, too. It was amazing. This definitely would have clinched victory and all that. The Falcons would get the ball back, and with a minute left, the Vikings nearly got an interception. Robert Griffith dropped the interception of a deflected pass, which would have been game, set, match. The next play, Chandler threw a touchdown to Terrence Mathis, tied the game 27-27. The Vikings did get the coin toss to start overtime and got possession, but couldn't do anything and had to punt. The Vikings punted it back. The Falcons punted back. And Cunningham had a deep pass for Randy Moss. It was nearly broken up by Eugene Robinson. Nearly. If it was completed, Moss would have scored the touchdown game, set, match, but they had to punt on the fourth down. And once again, the Falcons won the game. Morgan Anderson kicked his 38-yard field goal, which ended it, and the Falcons were going to the Super Bowl against the Broncos. Well, they didn't know who they were facing at the time, but it was the Broncos after all. So anyway, it was amazing. Anyway, the Vikings GM at the time said that our team played the rest of the game as if it was shocked that our automatic kicker had missed its most critical time. The name of that general manager? You guessed it. No, I don't think you would have guessed it, but what's my name? Yes, for some strange reason, I have the same name as a former NFL GM for the Vikings and Titans. So, yeah. This was like shocking. I mean, the Vikings were 15-1 and didn't even win the Super Bowl, much less get to there. I mean, it was great and all that. So, everyone called the 98 Vikings the greatest team never to make it. And this would have dramatic repercussions for the Vikings and all that. In fact, on How I Met Your Mother, there was a Minnesota themed bar, and Robin asked the significance of a banner. That's right. I'm drinking till I forget the 1999 NFL NFC Championship. Didn't. A lot of people said that Gary Anderson's missed kick was the turning point. Obviously, it was. I mean, the Vikings could have just had a defensive stand, and things would have been better. But yeah, it was just terrible. It was devastating. Unfortunately for Minnesota, things just didn't get better and all that. In 2000, they lost the conference final to the Giants. Terribly. I even did that last year when I talked about the 41-0 game. And in 2009, when Brett Favre had a chance to run the ball and get closer for Ryan Longwell to kick a field goal to win the game, but he decided to throw an interception, and the Saints won the game in overtime. And in 2017, they had a chance to get to the Super Bowl, but they lost to Philadelphia. They got crushed. Anyway, yeah, there was a lot of criticism about that and Dennis Green for kneeling to go to overtime. However, the Falcons would actually miss the playoffs and would not come back to 2002. The Falcons, with that win in the 98 NFC title game, that was one of the greatest moments of all time. Of course, we all know about their collapse in Super Bowl 52. 51, pardon. Why did I say 52? Sorry. So it was good that the Falcons got to the Super Bowl anyway. Minnesota hasn't been that far in a long time. All of that. Unfortunately for the Falcons, things would get a whole lot worse. They got to the Super Bowl, lost to the Broncos, but Eugene Robinson got in trouble for trying to solicit an uncovered officer. What an idiot. Well, regardless. Can you imagine all that? This was just like unbelievable. That it was so devastating and all that. I mean, the guy should have just kicked it in between the goalposts, and it was indoors too, so no excuse. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.